Welcome back. The FDA greenlighting another COVID-19 vaccine booster shot today for those 50 and up. For what you need to know on this, here's Anjalee Khemlani with us today. Anjalee, hi there. What are we doing? We're greenlighting it, but we're not necessarily a formal recommendation at this point, right?
That's correct. It's more of let's make it available. And that's exactly what the CDC said in their guidance that they just released following the FDA authorization. So basically looking at those that are 50 and older, as well as immunocompromised individuals, specifically those who are 12 and older for the Pfizer vaccine, and those that are 18 and older for the Moderna vaccine. And that's based on who has authorizations already, what age group has broad authorizations, but just for that immunocompromised group. So basically gives doctors and other healthcare providers the leeway to give these doses for those who are concerned, especially for the coming wave. We know that BA.2 has now taken over in the US and is a variant of concern for many individuals. We've seen what it's done overseas in the UK and Asia. China, of course, we know what's going on there with Shanghai being shut down. So all of that put together paints a pretty grim or sort of concerning picture for those individuals that are most vulnerable. Now, this all has been a point of contention, this authorization itself, because we know that the FDA's advisory committee meeting is set for April 6th next week to discuss booster doses. And so that really is when we're going to hear about what the rest of us are in for. As it stands right now, this only applies to the mRNA vaccines. We know that we've also seen some results from Johnson & Johnson as a initial shot and an mRNA booster providing better protection than just two J&J doses. So that's also something to keep in mind and could come up at next week's meeting. We know that we heard from the FDA's director of the vaccine sort of segment, Dr. Peter Marks, earlier today in a press briefing, really emphasizing the fact that this came from a study done in Israel. We know that they've been sort of contributing their study data to Pfizer in the real world event. They've been closely working with that company to provide real world data throughout the pandemic. And so that's where this information, this recommendation came from. There is room to adjust as needed, but of course, next week is when we're going to hear a lot more.
It feels increasingly likely that an annual COVID booster shot is going to be part of our daily lives. What are we seeing from the BA.2 variant?
So we do know that it is starting to take over in a lot in the country. Really, we've seen already an uptick, concerning upticks in states in the Northeast, as well as in parts of the southern U.S. What we do know right now is that it's a far more transmissible variant, but not necessarily more severe in terms of disease. That could be a result of how widely vaccinated people are in the parts where we've been monitoring it. That is something that is still remains to be seen, and no expert has had any real opinion on whether or not it is going to be a much larger wave than the previous one we just saw, or whether or not it could be smaller. Of course, we've seen the varied stages, comparisons, say, in African countries versus the UK versus China. So it all just remains to be seen how it affects our population. We know that older individuals are only 2/3 boosted right now. And so that could play a key role in just how many people are affected by this new variant.
COVID fatigue certainly factors in at this point. Anjalee Khemlani, appreciate the time. Thanks.